If you are watching this on the rewatch, hi, thanks for your time. I'm Sarah, and these lives are just a place for people to talk about deconstruction, to find people who are going through the same thing. When I went through the process a long time ago, it was very lonely, very isolating. And so I don't want people to have to go through it alone. So that's why. Hey, Rachel, good to see you. Thanks for coming. I feel like my couch is extra squeaky today. I don't know why. Well, for anyone who is new, just a little bit of background about me. Hi, April. Hey, Charles, good to see you. Hi. I grew up Protestant Christian, kind of evangelical. Gosh, why are you so squeaky today? My couch is old, I guess. I don't know how long couches are supposed to last. Probably a while. To anyone just joining, hey, welcome. I'm Sarah, and this is a place for people who are deconstructing, questioning their faith, just wanting a place to chat about it, and to talk about what it's like. And some of the things that I talk about pretty frequently are heaven and hell. For me, one of the first dominoes to fall was the idea of hell. Charles. Rachel asked, why does God hurt animals? I don't know. I think some Christians would say that, well, originally that wasn't his intent, but then when sin came into the world, everything became bad. But I think that's not a very good answer. Hi, crazy girl. Good to see you. But yeah, I think there is, there's some language about like in heaven, God won't have to hurt animals. Hey, Dr. Joe. Hi. Naaman asked, what happens after we die? So I don't know. My best guess based on the evidence that we have is, I think, nothing. Like, I think we just cease existing. Hi, TRB. Hi, Joe. Oh, man. Charles says, I've heard animals don't have souls, so they don't actually feel pain. Whew. Jonathan says, I used to believe even one sin would send you to hell. Then I started to believe everyone goes to heaven. Then I eventually no longer believed in heaven or hell. Fair enough. Crazy Girl says, I don't think God hurts the animals. I think human hurts them. So it depends on how we want to have that discussion. Like, are we hypothetically saying that the God of the Bible is real and talking about that God's actions? Or are we, saying what we think is actual reality? Because I don't believe in God at all. So you're right. I don't think God is hurting animals because I don't think he exists. But the stories in the Bible, that God does hurt animals. I'm doing fine, Joe. Thanks for asking. But to your point, crazy girl, humans absolutely do hurt animals. I mean, yeah, no argument from me there. I'm glad, much less anxiety now that I'm an atheist. Nope, I'm not communist. What do you believe in? Well, I don't believe in anything supernatural. So, like, I don't have any religious or spiritual beliefs. To anyone just joining, hi, welcome. Thanks, Jay. Yeah, I'm Sarah, and this is a place for people who are questioning their faith or deconstructing. Don't you believe in Doug? Well, Doug is an exception. Hi, Guillermo. Do you believe in superstitions? I never really understood what they are. No, I mean, so a superstition is, something someone does to gain control over a situation that they don't actually have control over. So I don't think that there's anything supernatural happening there. Hey, Matthew. Hi. Hello, one with nothing. Good to see you. I what? For anyone just joining, hey, welcome. Hi, Thomas. Do I believe in marriage? Do you mean, do I believe it exists, or I'm not quite sure what you mean by that question. What is what, Paris? Hi, Eve. Good to see you. Do you fear death? Not currently. I'm not looking forward to it, but um, I'm not afraid of it, if that makes sense. Hi, Ad. Brian says, I tried religion, i.e. Christianity, many times, but it never stuck. And all for a good reason, in my opinion. I've just never needed a religion to be a good man. What denomination were you in? I just say Protestant because I was part of several different churches throughout, my Christian life. And I grew up in a Presbyterian church, though, if that helps. Do you think love is real? Well, yeah, we really experience it. Oops. One says, what do you think of the saying, heaven is spread upon the earth, but men do not see it? I see this as pointing to a kind of heaven right now that's possible. I mean, I think that we would have to figure out what do we even mean when we say the word heaven, because that seems to be stretching the definition of heaven to mean something different. Oh, bonjour from France. Hi. Crazy Girl says, I'm Christian, but I find myself questioning myself whether if I leave Christ, then I will feel relieved that I don't have to be perfect, Like when you were a Christian, did you feel like you're perfect? I definitely felt that kind kind of push and pull of, you know, you weren't supposed to feel like you had to be perfect all the time because God forgave you. But at the same time, it did feel like the expectations were so high that I was always letting God down. And then he would forgive me for letting him down, but it still felt bad to let him down. Jacob says, I'm confused. Are you leaving Christianity? I did quite a few years ago. So now this space is for people who are in that same position. Hi, Omega. What was the straw that broke the camel's back? So there wasn't just one thing. It wasn't like one thing happened and then I stopped being a Christian. It was a long process, honestly. And I do have a video kind of going through that whole process on my page, if you want the whole backstory. Hi, Damien. Pineapple on pizza, not for me. Hello, Omega. Jacob says, what's your purpose in life? I honestly, I like the term meaning better than purpose. I find meaning in a lot of things, but I don't think that like I am put here to accomplish a specific task. What are your pronouns? She and her. Brian says, I hear that all the time, shaking my head. I would rather believe and be wrong than not believe and be wrong. That's horrible thinking, and it's always people that claim Christianity. Yeah, so what you're describing there is Pascal's wager. The idea that it's like you're picking the safer bet, which really doesn't make sense at all. It's not a very logical position. Hi, Unchained. Happy Tuesday. Hey, Mendel. Welcome. Why is my name Leaving Faith? Because my account, both here and on TikTok, is about the process of leaving faith. Such a good question, Connor. Does God like things because they are good, or are things good because God likes them? And when you try to talk about objective morality with Christians, they get tangled up in that, and sometimes can't see the difference. And I think it's an incredibly important difference. Are you into spiritualism? I don't think so. I don't know how you're defining that term. So someone to reach out to, Mendel, there is an organization called Recovering from Religion. Oh, perfect. Charles put the web address down there. And Recovering from Religion is a great organization that has a lot of resources. And, you know, they've got like support groups and secular therapists and just a lot of places to reach out. Did you leave a fundamentalist faith? You know, it's interesting. I'm trying to think, like, would I describe my faith as fundamentalist? In some ways, yes. And it was definitely very extreme and kind of all encompassing for sure. Oh, hi, Golden Caravan. Golden says, I'm happy to see you here, and I was wondering when we should be expecting the next Bible study with Justin. Amazing duo. Yes, Justin is amazing for sure. So we typically record them on Thursdays, and then it just depends on how long it takes to edit them. So you should probably see a new episode in the next week or so. Hi, Jay. Jacob says, it sounds like you've let go of the idea that life has a set purpose from outside, but that you still find meaning, maybe in relationships, creativity, or just being present. Is that right? That sounds pretty reasonable. Yeah. I think we find our own meaning. I don't think someone is giving us a purpose, but I do find life to be meaningful still. Did you believe in God before you left faith? Yes. Which do you think is a bigger motivator for believers, fear of hell or desire for heaven? I don't know. And I think it really depends. I think when it comes to relationship and good deeds, it's desire for heaven. But when it comes to questioning and doubt, then there's some fear of hell. Why leave faith? I just stopped believing that God existed. Thanks, Golden. Do you still believe in God? So I actually don't believe in any kind of God or higher power or anything. Jacob says, I've noticed that when people step away from faith, they sometimes find freedom, but also that sense of weightlessness, like there's no anchor. Have you felt that, or do you feel like you found something solid? I would say in the moment, or in kind of the months after I stopped believing in God, it definitely rocked my world. I mean, it definitely felt like everything flipped upside down, and it took me a while to reorient, but I now feel like I know myself better. I know where I kind of fit into the world better. So, yeah, I guess I don't feel adrift. Thanks, Brian. Oh, thank you very much, Connor. Oscar says, I find I interpret God as the motion of energy that allows movement in the universe. I guess to me, I don't know why it's called God then. Like I don't know. Like what is the definition of a God, I'm not sure. How has your family reacted? My sisters were fine with it. My parents were definitely sad. Hi, Ephraim. And that took a while, but I'm lucky that I still have a good relationship with them. Well, hi, Moses. Welcome. One says, are we defining God as a conscious being that created the universe? Maybe. To be fair, I don't know. And so I'm truly just kind of pondering out loud. Like, I don't know how we want to define what a God would be or what God is. Um, can there be multiple? Does it bring you peace thinking there's nothing beyond this life, or is there still a part of you that hopes there's more? Depends on the day, to be totally honest. It's kind of a mixed bag, because when I believed in God, I also believed in hell. And it caused me great anxiety to think that some of my loved ones might suffer for eternity. And so it's hugely relieving to me that I don't think any of my loved ones are suffering. That being said, the actual moment of just going into non-existence is anxiety inducing. I mean, I don't know, maybe at the end of a long life, I'll feel differently about it. Um, it's hard to picture being like, yeah, I'm good existing, like I'm done. I don't know. It's hard to wrap my head around. Jim says she never heard that song by Journey. That's why she stopped believing. That song is going to be in my head for the rest of the night now. Well, thank you, SH. SH says, I'd suggest Catholic Answers and Aquinas' Summa, especially the 5 ways. Your objections seem more about Protestantism than Catholicism. I admire your search for truth, wishing you the best. So I wish you the best as well. Catholicism and Protestantism certainly do have very different perspectives and very different problems. So yeah, when I talk about like what my faith used to be and the issues that I had with what my faith was, I agree. Those are issues with Protestant Christianity. JS says, I always thought it was ridiculous that you can always be forgiven, but once you go to hell, that's it. Yeah, it is so strange. Like, why would an all-powerful God who loves you suddenly be magically unable to forgive you once you go to hell? Why did you decide to leave your faith? It actually wasn't my decision. I just stopped believing it was true. So it was much more something that happened to me. Is meaning enough when you're in pain? Yes. I mean, that meaning is what makes the pain bearable. Retro says, why would a God who loves you force you to be in heaven with him when you don't want to be there? Why would a God who loves me sentence me to eternal torment just for not being able to believe he exists? All right, I think we're getting some of the wild comments in here. Hi, Allison. So I'm going to switch our commenting over to our subscribers and just followers. So anyone who is a follower, if you just follow my page, then you can comment. But it seems to be at some point we attract people who are just really throwing the chat for a loop. Hi, Maggie. Patsy says, the thought of simply going back to the state I was in before I was conceived is perfectly satisfactory to me. The idea of eternity and all it encompasses is a scary thing. Yeah, that's something that we didn't really contemplate a lot growing up as a Christian was, we just said, well, heaven is perfect and wonderful and it's going to be great. But truly living for infinity in a state of bliss, I think that could eventually become terrible. Where's Justin tonight? I don't know. Someone go find him. What happens here? Hi, Allison. So this is a place for people who are deconstructing their faith or questioning their faith and just kind of want to talk about it. So we ask questions about, what people are going through, what it was like, that kind of thing. All first says, I think of my experience going into surgery where it was total lights out, no dreams, nothing. Are you open to transcendence beyond death that isn't based on Christian theology? I mean, sure, if there's any evidence for it, I think it's certainly interesting. And I myself have never died, so I don't know for sure that there's nothing. So yeah. Hey, Brian. There weren't too many. Oh, Jaws, you're so welcome. I'm really glad that it's helpful. No, you're welcome, Brian. Why do you think there isn't evidence for the God of the Bible? Well, because there isn't. I mean, that's an interesting way to phrase that question. It's hard for me to explain why there isn't. Do you think that there is evidence? Retro Guy says, nowhere is it stated that it's just bliss, but God is eternal, so the revelation that comes would be endless. I mean, how would that be boring? It depends on what experiencing revelation would actually mean. Is that just learning about the universe? Is it absorbing information? Is it connecting? An infinite amount of anything could eventually become boring. Jordan, I'm not aware of any prophecies that were actually fulfilled. Slanted says, hello, do you mind explaining how God took a rib from Adam to make Eve, and that's why man today have an extra rib and women today have one less rib? Hey, Slanted. So men and women have the same number of ribs. It's not true that men have an extra rib. Hi, Go. Do you think all evidence must be empirical? Do moral evidences or any philosophical evidences hold any weight in your view? Not in the absence of empirical evidence. I would also need empirical evidence. Yeah, Isaiah 53 isn't even about the Messiah, if I'm remembering correctly. Sir says, so if heaven has free will, then we could fall like Satan did. Yeah, there's such a conundrum about heaven, because if there's free will in heaven, that means eventually there's going to be sin in heaven. But if there's not free will in heaven, then you can't really have real love without free will, right? Hey, Em. So do you think it's possible for two with opposing beliefs can succeed? Well, sure, it's possible. Yeah. Jordan, just because Israel became a state again, I mean, that's basically saying if any time ever in history they happen to become a state again, we've predicted it. And that's not a very specific prediction. Sensei asked, did Eve have free will choice in becoming Adam's wife? Huh. Now that's interesting. I mean, you could probably argue at the time that marriage wasn't really about love. It was an exchange of property and money and security. So maybe when the text was written, that wasn't a concern. But fair point. Yeah. What if Eve didn't like Adam? What do you believe now? I don't believe in anything supernatural, if that answers your question. How often do you go live? On YouTube, I go live on Tuesdays, occasionally on Thursdays, but I'm mostly live on TikTok. So I have a TikTok account on with the same handle, and so most evenings I go live over there. Piper says it's hard to imagine nothing after death. Do you find comfort in that? I don't know that I would say I find comfort in it. It is truly hard to imagine. Yeah. So, um, I hope it will be just peaceful and then just done. But it is weird. Yeah. Hmm. Slanted says, I just feel like God can't be proved, but he is always there for me when I need him. It's sort of a comfort thing, He takes away my stresses. Yeah, I do understand that. And the thing is, Slanted, I don't want to debate back and forth with you about that because I truly have no desire to take that away from you. Like I don't want to try to poke holes in that for you. And so if believing in God is what helps you manage the stress in your life, then that's great. And this might not be the live for you. Do you have no faith, religious ideology? Correct. I'm not part of any religion and I don't believe in any gods. How long was God outside of time? Yeah, the idea that that Christians say that God is outside of time, I don't even know how biblical that is. And it's very illogical because if God is going to ever take any action that requires time, how do you respond to current believers? It depends on what they're doing, honestly. Do you truly believe in Doug? Do you think it's possible to live without any beliefs? If not, what are the necessary beliefs? So we're gonna get into like sticky territory of knowledge versus beliefs. And like, so, I mean, to answer that question, we would really more specifically have to define that. Like, what is a belief versus knowledge and understanding? How do you tackle the moral question without God? Which moral question? Brown-haired girl says, for me, it's hard to try and persuade non-believers to my personal beliefs because it's all really just about faith, you know? Yeah, and I don't think anyone is very successful at just persuading people to change their religious beliefs in either direction. So I think generally preaching and trying to convert is not super successful anyway. Meaning good and evil. Um, so I don't think believing in God helps you with good and evil. The God in the Bible certainly does many immoral things. I think morality is it's a human construct that we have because of the way our brain functions. Um, you know, we can use logic and empathy to develop our morals. I'm sorry, Justin. That's incredibly difficult. Well, welcome, Refined. Um, Kirillaman says, it seems like what we think of as evil is really just a lack of understanding of what's causing the behavior. Sometimes, and I mean, I don't think that evil is a supernatural force on its own. I mean, I think humans can cause each other significant amounts of harm. And sometimes it's intentional and sometimes it's not.